Hello, my reading loves. Welcome again. Today I got a call from a friend and she requested our help. She's meant to go to this event on Saturday where she's supposed to read some words from this book called Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. So the pages that she's meant to be reading from are here. Let me just show you. So these are the pages that she's meant to be reading from, and she said that if you look at them, they sort of look a little bit dull. These are words from the chapter called A Mad Tea Party. They are looking a little bit plain. It would be nice to decorate them or just highlight a few things here and there. So would you like to help me with this? You would? Oh, great, great. You're happy to help. By the way, there's another thing I want to show you. Let me bring this up. So my friend also sent this box and it has some really lovely stickers. Let me show you. Oh. We have a rabbit. Oh yeah, it would be nice to use some of these and decorate those words. So for this first page, there is this picture of the Mad Tea Party chapter. This is March Hare, this is Mad Hatter, and there is a dormouse between them. So for this page, actually, let me show you. I have something here. And so I have some scraps from this wallpaper left, and I saw it has this lovely tree here, and maybe we can then try to stick it here. You like the idea? Okay, good, good, good. I have a scissor here. Actually, that looks rather nice. Oh, what do we have here? There is this teapot. Maybe color it a little bit. And let's read some words. That'll give us an idea of what to add. There was a table set out under a tree in front of the house, and the March Hare and the Hatter were having tea at it. A dormouse was sitting between them fast asleep, and the other two were using it as a cushion, resting their elbows on it and talking over its head. Very uncomfortable for the dormouse, thought Alice. Only as it's asleep, I suppose it doesn't mind. The table was a large one, but the three were all crowded together at one corner of it. No room, no room, cried out when they saw Alice coming. Shall we do it this kind of purpley color? Yeah, let's do that. The story of Alice in Wonderland and the words of this book, they can sometimes seem a little bit like there's no sense to it. And if you are familiar with the story, I mean the events and whatever happens, it is like very unusual kind of things keep happening. We had that picture of that rabbit so we can add it here. Let me bring it. There it is. The rabbit. Yeah, I think it will go well. So let me just remove this sticker and let's fix it here. What do you think? Yeah, yeah, it looks nice. Okay, what's next? On this page, there's plenty of room, said Alice indignantly, and she sat down in a large armchair at one end of the table. Have some wine, the March Hare said in an encouraging tone. Alice looked all round the table, but there was nothing on it but tea. I don't see any wine, she remarked. There isn't any, said the March Hare. Then it wasn't very civil of you to offer it, said Alice angrily. It wasn't very civil of you to sit down without being invited, said the March Hare. I didn't know it was your table, said Alice. It's laid for a great many more than 3. Your hair wants cutting, said the Hatter. He had been looking at Alice for some time with great curiosity, and this was his first speech. I think for this page, maybe we can pull something from this tape of stickers. I mean, it could be random. Well, everything is random here, so which one do you want to pick? Lovely patterns, though. You know, this is jumping out at me. This one. Shall we stick this one? Okay. Yeah. Randomly, maybe just over here. Just above, angrily, as if this little plant is growing from Alice's anger. Let's move on to the next one. You should learn not to make personal remarks, Alice said with some severity. It's very rude. The Hatter opened his eyes very wide on hearing this, but all he said was, Why is a raven like a writing desk? Come, we shall have some fun now, thought Alice. I'm glad they've become asking riddles. I believe I can guess that, she added aloud. Do you mean that you think you can find out the answer to it? Said the March Hare. Exactly so, said Alice. Then you should say what you mean, the March Hare went on. I do, Alice hastily replied. At least I mean what I say. That's the same thing, you know. So it looks like as if he's trying to make sense of things, whereas the others are not really. So it's a kind of an argument which is going a little bit around. Oh, I see this bird here. Oh, I don't know the name of this bird. It's not looking like a raven though. Do you know what is the name of this bird? Maybe it can represent raven for us. And I see this little inkwell and the writing feather pen. Good. Maybe I'm thinking these two can go there. You agree? Great. Shall we add it here somewhere so the words are not hidden? Okay, yeah. Yeah. There you go. So this question, why is a raven like a writing desk? You could spend time thinking about a question like this. It can be interesting because they are really the kind of thing that takes your time and means nothing, or it can be a very good exercise for you to think of creative things. Not the same thing a bit, said the Hatter. You might just as well say that I see what I eat is the same thing as I eat what I see. You might just as well say, added the March Hare, that I like what I get is the same thing as I get what I like. You might just as well say, added the Dormouse, who seemed to be talking in his sleep, that I breathe when I sleep is the same thing as I sleep when I breathe. It is the same thing with you, said the Hatter, and here the conversation dropped, and the party sat silent for a minute. While Alice thought over all she could remember about ravens and writing desks, which wasn't much, the Hatter was the first to break the silence. What day of the month is it? He said, turning to Alice. He had taken his watch out of his pocket and was looking at it uneasily, shaking it every now and then, and holding it to his ear. So something interesting happened on this page that I noticed. Did you notice this? Tell me. The party sat silent for a minute. So I feel like with questions like, why is a raven like a writing desk? Questions like that really help to divert our mind away from our cares and worries, and they could also lead to some creativity, some thought process, and I think that really helps. So it's an interesting question. I have one sticker which will go well on this page. Let me bring it. Here it is. And here it is taking watch out of his pocket. So it is appropriate to apply this sticker on this page somewhere. That's nice. Okay, let's go to the next page. Alice considered a little and then said, the 4th. 2 days wrong, sighed the Hatter. I told you butter wouldn't suit the works, he added, looking angrily at the March Hare. It was the best butter, the March Hare meekly replied. Yes, but some crumbs must have got in as well, the Hatter grumbled. You shouldn't have put it in with the bread knife. The March Hare took the watch and looked at it gloomily. Then he dipped it into his cup of tea and looked at it again. But he could think of nothing better to say than his first remark. It was the best butter, you know. Alice had been looking over his shoulder with some curiosity. What a funny watch, she remarked. It tells the day of the month and doesn't tell what o'clock it is. Okay, so let me find a sticker for this. Maybe we can stick this one on this page. And let me do that. Great. Why should it? Muttered the Hatter. Does your watch tell you what year it is? Of course not, Alice replied very readily, but that's because it stays the same year for such a long time together. Which is just the case with mine, said the Hatter. Alice felt dreadfully puzzled. The Hatter's remark seemed to have no sort of meaning in it, and yet it was certainly English. I don't quite understand you, she said as politely as she could. The Dormouse is asleep again, said the Hatter, and he poured a little hot tea upon its nose. The Dormouse shook its head impatiently and said without opening its eyes, of course, just what I was going to remark myself. Have you guessed the riddle yet? The Hatter said, turning to Alice again. Just this line here is kind of giving me a sense that Hatter is very sad because Alice is sort of going in a kind of a reasoning way, talking about the clock and the calendar and time. But this line from Hatter kind of makes it look like Hatter is a bit upset or he's sad. So for this page, I think what we could do is maybe just underline these words from Hatter. There you go. Okay. No, I give it up, Alice replied. What's the answer? I haven't the slightest idea, said the Hatter. Nor I, said the March Hare. Alice sighed wearily. I think you might do something better with the time, she said, then waste it in asking riddles that have no answers. If you knew time as well as I do, said the Hatter, you wouldn't talk about wasting it. It's him. I don't know what you mean, said Alice. Of course you don't, the Hatter said, tossing his head contemptuously. I dare say you never even spoke to time. Perhaps not, Alice cautiously replied, but I know I have to beat time when I learn music. Mad Hatter is kind of trying to tell Alice that your idea of what is wasting time may not be right. Some silly nonsense like that is such a waste of your time. But actually, maybe it's questions like that that kind of make life interesting and creative and funny. For this page, what shall we do? Shall we just kind of leave it? Ah, that accounts for it, said the Hatter. He won't stand beating. Now, if you only kept on good terms with him, he'd do almost anything you liked with the clock. For instance, suppose it were 9 o'clock in the morning, just time to begin lessons. You'd only have to whisper a hint to time, and round goes the clock in a twinkling. 1:30, time for dinner. I only wish it was, the March Hare said to itself in a whisper. That would be grand, certainly, said Alice thoughtfully. But then I shouldn't be hungry for it, you know. Not at first, perhaps, said the Hatter, but you could keep it to 1:30 as long as you liked. Is that the way you manage? Alice asked. The Hatter shook his head mournfully. Not I, he replied. We quarrelled last March, just before he went mad, you know. So again on this page, we are getting a bit of background into Hatter's story, his personality, or whatever. For this page, let's do something from this sticker ribbon. Have a look. Do you like anything? Oh, how about this little deer? Can you see? Let me show you. Look, this lovely little deer somewhere lost in the woods, kind of like Hatter. He's a deer and he seems a bit lost. Shall we use this one? Okay. Pointing with his teaspoon at the March Hare. It was at the great concert given by the Queen of Hearts, and I had to sing. Twinkle, twinkle, little bat, how I wonder what you're at. You know the song, perhaps. I've heard something like it, said Alice. It goes on, you know, the Hatter continued, in this way. Up above the world you fly, like a tea tray in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle. Until last page, we were feeling sorry for our dear Hatter, but in this page, Hatter is coming across as a little bit sarcastic, a little bit edgy. However, we can forgive him his edginess because it seems like some wrong has been done to him, which has sort of made him like this. He's saying, I had to sing. So it means like he was almost coerced into singing, and he has changed the gentle nursery rhyme into this edgy, sarcastic type of lines. I'm thinking, I'm thinking for this page, because of these slightly edgy lines, maybe use uh, the bumblebee to represent a kind of a sting, a kind of a buzziness. So let's add this one. Let me remove this. So there you are. So yeah. Here the dormouse shook itself and began singing in its sleep. Twinkle, 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 and went on so long that they had to pinch it to make it stop. Well, I'd hardly finished the first verse, said the Hatter, when the Queen jumped up and bawled out, He's murdering the time. Off with his head. How dreadfully savage, exclaimed Alice. And ever since that, the Hatter went on in a mournful tone, he won't do a thing I ask. It's always 6 o'clock now. A bright idea came into Alice's head. Is that the reason so many tea things are put out here? Asked Alice. Yes, that's it, said the Hatter with a sigh. It's always tea time, and we've no time to wash the things between whiles. Then you keep moving round, I suppose, said Alice. Yeah, so we see more of Hatter's story unravel in this, and his past, and the place where his trauma and his troubles apparently have started. And the Queen has accused him of wasting time and not being very prudent with time, it seems. I think if you look at this sticker, it can represent time kind of standing still, because that's what Hatter is saying, that time is standing still. And if you look very closely from this angle in this clock here, it's sort of like could be seen as 6 o'clock, isn't it? Cover. And shall we put it here this time? Because yeah, I think this will be nice. So as you can see, it kind of like shows a bit like 6 o'clock. Exactly so, said the Hatter, as the things get used up. But what happens when you come to the beginning again? Alice ventured to ask. Suppose we change the subject, the March Hare interrupted, yawning. I'm getting tired of this. I vote the young lady tells us a story. I'm afraid I don't know one, said Alice, rather alarmed at the proposal. Then the Dormouse shall, they both cried. Wake up, Dormouse, and they pinched it on both sides at once. The Dormouse slowly opened his eyes. I wasn't asleep, he said in a hoarse, feeble voice. I heard every word you fellows were saying. Tell us a story, said the March Hare. Yes, please do, pleaded Alice. And again, I don't think we have a mouse one here, but maybe we can use this squirrel one here. There you go. Well, it's not a dormouse, but it's the closest thing we have. And be quick about it, added the Hatter, or you'll be asleep again before it's done. Once upon a time there were 3 little sisters. The Dormouse began in a great hurry, and their names were Elsie, Lacie, and Tilly, and they lived at the bottom of a well. What did they live on? Said Alice, who always took a great interest in questions of eating and drinking. They lived on treacle, said the Dormouse after thinking a minute or two. They couldn't have done that, you know, Alice gently remarked. They'd have been ill. So they were, said the Dormouse, very ill. So again, on this page, she's kind of scrutinizing everything literally. So she's asking all these questions. Whereas it's a story, so there is no need for all this interrogation. Let's highlight one word, which I think is very nice and very ASMR-y. Treacle, 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 treacle. Alice tried to fancy to herself what such an extraordinary ways of living would be like, but it puzzled her too much. So she went on, but why did they live at the bottom of a well? Take some more tea, the March Hare said to Alice very earnestly. I've had nothing yet, Alice replied in an offended tone, so I can't take more. You mean you can't take less, said the Hatter. It's very easy to take more than nothing. Nobody asked your opinion, said Alice. Who's making personal remarks now? The Hatter asked triumphantly. Alice did not quite know what to say to this, so she helped herself to some tea and bread and butter, and then turned to the Dormouse and repeated her question. Why did they live at the bottom of a well? For this one, we don't have a sticker of a well, but we have sticker of Eiffel. So let's put this on. Yeah. The Dormouse again took a minute or two to think about it and then said, It was a treacle well. There's no such thing, Alice was beginning very angrily, but the Hatter and the March Hare went, Shh, shh, and the Dormouse sulkily remarked, If you can't be civil, you'd better finish the story for yourself. No, please go on, Alice said very humbly. I won't interrupt again. I dare say there may be one. One, indeed, said the Dormouse indignantly. However, he consented to go on, and so these three little sisters, they were learning to draw, you know. What did they draw? Said Alice, quite forgetting her promise. Treacle, said the Dormouse, without considering it all this time. I want a clean cup, interrupted the Hatter. Let's all move one place on. So on this page, we definitely need to highlight this word. Let's do that. Treacle well, treacle well, treacle well. Treacle well, treacle well, treacle well. He moved on as he spoke, and the Dormouse followed him. The March Hare moved into the Dormouse's place, and Alice rather unwillingly took the place of the March Hare. The Hatter was the only one who got any advantage from the change, and Alice was a good deal worse off than before, as the March Hare had just upset the milk jug into his plate. Alice did not wish to offend the Dormouse again, so she began very cautiously. But I don't understand, where did they draw the treacle from? You can draw water out of a water well, said the Hatter, so I should think you could draw treacle out of a treacle well. Eh, stupid? But they were in the well, Alice said to the Dormouse, not choosing to notice this last remark. Of course they were, said the Dormouse. Well in. Okay, for this one, let's add this lovely leaf. The Dormouse is being very patient and very nice with Alice, even though she's interrupting the story and asking all these questions. So let's give this leaf to the Dormouse as a sign of appreciation. This answer so confused poor Alice that she let the Dormouse go on for some time without interrupting it. They were learning to draw. The Dormouse went on yawning and rubbing its eyes, for it was getting very sleepy, and they drew all manner of things, everything that begins with an M. Why with an M? Said Alice. Why not? Said the March Hare. Alice was silent. The Dormouse had closed its eyes by this time and was going off into a doze, but on being pinched by the Hatter, it woke up again with a little shriek and went on. That begins with an M, such as mouse traps and the moon and the memory and muchness, you know. You say things are much of a muchness. Did you ever see such a thing as a drawing of a muchness? Okay, so for all this little bit of agitation and all this vibes of annoyance, let's give them all this lovely little owl. Look at it, it is so adorable. It has these cute eyes and it's just looking at you. And we can call this owl muchness because it has a look of a muchness about it. Don't you think so? Yeah, I think so. Okay, so the muchness or owl goes on this page. There it is, muchness. Really, now you ask me, said Alice, very much confused. I don't think. Then you shouldn't talk, said the Hatter. This piece of rudeness was more than Alice could bear. She got up in great disgust and walked off. The Dormouse fell asleep instantly, and neither of the others took the least notice of her going, though she looked back once or twice, half hoping that they would call after her. The last time she saw them, they were trying to put the Dormouse into the teapot. At any rate, I'll never go there again, said Alice, as she picked her way through the wood. It's the stupidest tea party I ever was at in all my life. Just as she said this, she noticed that one of the trees had a door leading right into it. That's very curious, she thought. But everything's curious today. I think I may as well go in at once. And in she went. Once more, she found herself in the long hall and close to the little glass table. Now I'll manage better this time, she said to herself, and began by taking the little golden key and unlocking the door that led into the garden. Then she went to work nibbling at the mushroom. She had kept a piece of it in her pocket till she was about a foot high. Then she walked down the little passage, and then she found herself at last in the beautiful garden among the bright flower beds and the cool fountains.